$50 billion to Ukraine.
President-elect Trump is receiving the strongest economy in modern history.
You know, when I started driving, gas was 60 cents a gallon, but I don't walk around annoyed that gas isn't 60 cents a gallon. So the fact that people could still remember what things used to cost, that was a force that really whacked incumbents.
Keep your eye on them.
Inflation down faster than almost any.
Growing the economy, the middle out and the bottom up, that benefits thus far everyone. Not a joke. I'm not being wise guy. If we do not lead the world, what nation leads the world?
Your account of the economic progress is against the backdrop of people having said, no, that's not what we want to do.
$50 billion has been sent to Ukraine. Biden's agreement that he made in October means that $20 billion of that is from the USA. And at the same time, Biden made a speech about his economic legacy, where he repeatedly blamed the Republicans for any of the economic downfalls and referred to his own work as some of the best in the world, repeatedly. Meanwhile, the New York Times, for the first time, has admitted that the immigration crisis is real and that there are going to be repercussions for it. So the World Bank Economic Aid Fund receives full $20 billion transfer. G7's $50 billion loan backed by interest from frozen Russian assets. I want to show you a video where RFK Jr. explains who profits off of these loans to Ukraine.
The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications, which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed. Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry. It's not really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
So he just admitted it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that that loan's ever getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost, Ukrainians, have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore, because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, black against white, and all these divisions that they sow.
Some people feel that Biden is trying to basically crash and burn things for Trump. And I do have to say that what he's leaving behind is an awful lot of obstacles and very, very difficult situations for Trump. So it's undoubtable that he will face challenges and problems. I'll first show you Biden's speech and then we can look at the White House briefing. I mean, there's an awful lot of it that's pretty infuriating.
Last month, I spoke to the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. about the pivotal actions we took to rescue the economy from the devastating harm caused by the way that, in my view, the pandemic was handled, and how we delivered immediate economic relief to those most in need. We got back to full employment, got inflation back down, managed a soft landing.
It bothers me. I see the left using the kind of insult a lot, saying that Trump handled a pandemic badly, that it was a disgrace how he handled the pandemic. Being from Europe and having seen how all the different European countries handled the pandemic, and having an idea because of my family living across different European countries, I can tell you that no one handled the pandemic well. No country did. There were actually one or two Scandinavian countries that handled it quite well because they didn't give in to the fear-mongering, they didn't lock down ever, kept level-headed about it. Other than that, the whole world reacted badly to the pandemic, and it was unprecedented. I would just love anybody who tries to use that insult. What would you have done? What would you have done if you were in his position, where you would have been so successful with this unprecedented, never seen before viral pandemic? Yeah, that argument does irritate me.
Most economists agree the new administration is going to inherit a fairly strong economy, at least at the moment. An economy going through fundamental transformation.
Just wait, because the amount of gaslighting in this is insane. It doesn't matter that over 50% of America said it with their vote. It doesn't matter how many people say that the economy is bad for them. The people who are living with the struggle of it every single day, it does not matter. They will just continue to lie about it. So get ready to be lied to a lot here.
We've written a new book that's growing the economy, the middle out and the bottom up, that benefits thus far everyone. And this is going to be the test going forward.
Thus far benefits everyone. Is there everyone out there feeling like the last 4 years has benefited them economically?
Over 16 million new jobs, the most in any single presidential term in American history. The lowest average unemployment rate of any administration in the last 50 years. 20 million applications for new business records. I mean, it's for new business, that is a record, I should say. Stock market hits record highs. I wish I owned a lot of stock. The worst part of all this, I acknowledge it, Brookings. For 36 years, I was listed as the poorest man in Congress. What a foolish man. Anyway, and I might add, I'm not anti-corporation. For 36 years, I represented corporate America. My state has more corporations registered in my state than every other state in the union. So I'm mildly accustomed to corporate America. And don't take my word for it. Here's how Time magazine and other commentators describe the economy. I'm leaving to my successor. And there's a number of these quotes. President-elect Trump is receiving the strongest economy in modern history, which is the envy of the world. I'm going to say something outrageous. I know a fair amount about foreign policy. I've known every major world leader for long, been around 500 years. I know these guys. And I don't know anybody who wouldn't change their economy with ours. Can you think of one, any major nation that says, I want to trade? I don't want to trade. I'll keep mine. I like what I'm doing. Think about what stunned me. And again, I'm going to say something outrageous. I have as much experience in foreign policy as any president in the history of the United States has had. I'm chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. Anyway, I spent a lot of time. I know all of them. Well, the decisions we make over the next 4 years have been transformative to the nation. But I tell you what stunned me, and I'm not being a hyper-American here. I can't name a single country in the world that doesn't think, put it this way, if we're not leading the world, who does? Not a joke. I'm not being wise guy. If we do not lead the world, What nation leads the world? Who pulls Europe together? Who tries to pull the Middle East together? How do we do the Indian Ocean? What do we do in Africa? We, the United States, lead the world. And you all are extremely experienced women and men. You know many of these leaders. You know many of these countries. Find me one that says we're not, or wish we weren't. Look, my hope and belief is that the decisions and investments are now so...
It comes across as arrogant. And you know what? If you want to say, like, okay, who's meant to kind of lead the world, you know, messing around with different countries getting involved with war. There's over 50% of the population who voted for Trump, and Trump was, a big part of his campaign was running on anti-war, on peace, on not getting involved, making it more complicated and causing damage, basically. Just listen to your own people. Listen to what your citizens are asking for.
You know, some of my friends in the Republican Party, when I do States of the Union, who holler and like, you know, those things. They're against all the things we did. Keep your eye on them. Tell me what they want the programs we voted for them to cut in their states. Show me the most conservative Republicans willing to take away the factories that are going to be built in their states. Going to be interesting. Going to be interesting.
The poor fella, he's so old and he's so unaware of how he comes across now.
I pray to God the president-elect throws away Project 2025. I think it'll be an economic disaster.
What I hate about that is they know he has nothing to do with it. They know it makes people scared. And when you fearmonger people, you put them into an emotive state, they're less likely to think rationally and you're better able to control them. So they do this and they don't care about the impact that that has on the people who support them. And this has bothered me. It bothered me as well when they were calling Trump a fascist and Hitler and, you know, his followers, Nazi supporters. All of this kind of awful rhetoric and fear-mongering there are people, many people out there who take that stuff seriously. They fully believe the stuff that these people say, and they live now in absolute fear. I'll show you some clips of people who believe Project 2025 is a real risk. Somebody asked me in the comments, Project 2025 is something that was put together by hundreds of very Republican but very far right people. So they put together a 1,000-page book about how they felt that the Republican administration should be done if Trump won. Trump had nothing to do with it. But he said that there are things he's heard from it that are absolutely absurd, that he completely disagrees with, and that there's no risk that he's going to be enacting this. They couldn't, because there's a structure within American politics that means that one person can't just enact all this change without getting the approval of Congress and the Senate and all of that stuff. So I hate that the left is willing to emotionally just absolutely mess with their own supporters and leave their own supporters in such a level of fear that they're in this type of emotional state by the end of it. Like they're suffering, they are not okay, and they're scared. And I just don't like that they play with them like that, and that they're willing to do that.
Historic investments we made went to more red states than blue states. Not a politically smart thing to do, and I knew what I was doing. I knew people would be angry.
If by investments they mean illegal immigrants.
The reason they're red states and they need it more because the decisions they made. Decisions they made. And geography. And I believe the economy I'm leaving at the moment, and others could do better than I did. I'm not saying it was perfect. But ends up at this moment the best economy, strongest economy in the world. And for all Americans, doing better.
Absolute rubbish and just lying, gaslighting.
Last month I spoke to the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. about the pivotal actions we took to rescue the economy from the devastating harm caused by that way, in my view, the pandemic was handled, and how we delivered immediate economic relief to those most in need.
Speaking of those most in need, you've still got North Carolina people suffering. You've still got a lot of people in America suffering whilst you send $20 billion to Ukraine.
Most economists agree the new administration is going to inherit a fairly strong economy, at least at the moment. An economy going through fundamental transformation that's laid out a stronger foundation and a sustainable, broad-based, highly productive growth. And it is my profound hope that the new administration will preserve and build on this progress. Like most great economic developments, this one is neither red nor blue.
Yeah, it's just crap. The White House held a press briefing not long after this, where again it's just lies.
President Biden has written a new playbook that's growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. His administration has delivered the strongest recovery in the world and laid a strong foundation for years to come by investing in America, empowering workers and unions, lowering costs, and supporting small businesses.
To me, it's just so insulting to the American public that they continue to pretend that this was such a successful economy. You know, it's just gaslighting. It's just so offensive considering how difficult it's been for the working class and for the middle class, you know. At least show the decency to just acknowledge people's struggle.
The U.S. economy really is the envy of the world. And I say that as someone who recently came back from Europe, where I was frequently accosted by people who wanted to just talk about how we've achieved the innovation, the productivity, the persistent full employment that we have.
I don't believe he was accosted about that.
In his speech was the U.S. budget deficit, which is closing out the fiscal year last year like above 6% of GDP. How sustainable is that as an inheritance of the incoming administration?
In terms of whether 6% deficits are sustainable, I think that when what you really want to see, it's I think it's hard and probably not that advisable to say this number is okay and that number isn't. Once you get to this level of debt to GDP, you're in trouble. Once you go over it, you know, the markets don't really work that way. Given the extent of the debt that we face so far, we still have very successful auctions to explain, what I'm talking about. But I do think that what you want to see is when you get to a full employment economy with above trend growth, you'd like to see that number coming down. So I think it's much more of a delta story. You'd like to see that number coming down, and one of the reasons you don't is because decades of trickle-down economics and Republican tax cuts have severed the linkage between strong economic growth and revenue flows to the Treasury. We've tried to correct that in our budgets, but the politics have blocked us from getting it there.
But basically you believe the current situation is not sustainable based off your budget proposals.
I think that when you get to an economy, I think that when you're an economy like ours, no, I wouldn't say it that way. I would say
I wouldn't say it that way. I want to say it in a way that sounds better for me.
The speech and the context for it. I mean, so many voters cited inflation and just their pessimism about the economy in exit interviews as we were watching the election. So what is the purpose of sort of going out and saying, well, we did all this right against that backdrop? It's kind of like water under the bridge, right? Sort of your account of the economic progress is against the backdrop of people having said, no, that's not what we want to do.
Yeah, so she's calling him out on it, and he's not going to answer that straight. We're going to get nowhere with this.
I think the president quoted Reagan in the speech saying sometimes facts can be stubborn things, but they are facts. So lay out a set of facts that are unequivocally correct about above trend growth, trending at 3% on real GDP, low.
Basically, huge number of people are suffering in this economy, but we don't want to admit that. So we're going to figure out some pointless facts that are irrelevant to what people's everyday experience is, and then tell them that they're just not living in reality because here are the facts. I would say that they're trying to write their own history right now, knowing that people will forget in a few years. But the truth is that people are struggling, and no matter how much they pretend and lie and just say that, oh well, the reality, no matter how people feel, the reality is the economy is really strong. Sorry, but the economy is not strong if people can't afford groceries and can't afford to buy a home, and young people can't dream about having a family or having their own home or anything, you know? It's insulting. I think that what Trump is inheriting is awful, and I don't believe that the full effects of that have been seen, and I wouldn't be surprised if they've been kind of containing the full extent of how bad it is. I really believe that this is going to be a good thing, but gosh, it's going to be met with an awful lot of resistance, and it's not going to be easy. There is a fight ahead. You know, there's an awful lot of corruption that's infiltrated into just every aspect of American government and politics, and it's going to be just absolutely fascinating the next few years to see how far they can get in kind of weeding out that corruption. That's all from me for today. Please let me know your thoughts on all of this. Are you feeling hopeful about everything? And, you know, how are you feeling about Biden's remarks? How are you feeling about 20 billion being sent to Ukraine? Of course, everybody will have their own opinion on this stuff, and it's really important that you share your thoughts, your views, your opinion, because in recent years there has been an active attempt to censor people and to stop them from sharing their thoughts, and it's really important. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.